Who would have thought I'd be sitting here speaking about how Saudi Arabia is, depending on who you ask, either destroying football as we know it, improving football as we know it, doing absolutely nothing to football as we know it, or doing anything, right? I don't even know where to start. I don't know where you start here. Obviously, Saudi Arabia has been on an absolute tear, right? Club after club after club are buying not only former really good players, not only like retired players, semi-retired players, but elite, like top-level footballers like Alan Saint-Maximin, right, who are in their prime. It started with Ronaldo, which we all thought was the natural kind of, not the natural progression, but the whole, that's his big money move. He's proven himself as, this man right here over my left shoulder, has proven himself as top 3 footballers to ever play the game, top 5 footballers to ever play the game, whatever. And he's now done all he needed to do in Europe, done all he needed to do at the international level, probably barring winning a World Cup, but obviously fucking okay. And he's going to ride off, go to Saudi Arabia for 3 years, collect $7 billion, retire and not be heard of ever again, right? And retires one of the best footballers ever do it. And then Benzema goes, and you're thinking, okay, that's a bit weird, considering Benzema won a Champions League and was a star player in the Champions League like 2 seasons ago, won a Ballon d'Or recently. Okay, that's weird. Then N'Golo Kante goes, and you're thinking, okay, interesting. Then Kalidou Koulibaly goes, and you're thinking, okay, interesting. And then Edouard Mendy goes, and you're thinking, right, okay. And then all of a sudden, every player and their dog is going to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to quickly get up a list. Probably should have this pre-planned, but that's poor podcasting for you. Players who have gone to Saudi Arabia. Let's see. Players who have gone to Saudi Arabia. Hopefully there's a list there is from 3 days ago. So you have, here we go. So you got, these are the players who have gone to Saudi Arabia, which is insane. Riyad Mahrez, Jordan Henderson, Malcolm, Roman Saiz, Alex Telles, Seko Fofana, Serge Milinkovic-Savic, Roberto Firmino, Marcelo Brozovic, Jota, Edouard Mendy, Karim Benzema, N'Golo Kante, Ruben Neves, Kalidou Koulibaly, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Anderson Talisca. You can add Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson is in that list. That's of 3 days ago. If there's more that's happened since, I don't know. Then apologies. But that list is fucking really good. Like they're like Riyad Mahrez, elite footballer right now. Jordan Henderson, probably not one of the best captains, especially in Europe. Malcolm, handy footballer. Roman Saiz has been pretty good for Wolves, right? Probably not the level of some other players, but there you go. Alex Telles on a free, probably okay. Seko Fofana is really good. Serge Milinkovic-Savic is really good. Roberto Firmino on a free after leaving Liverpool. Once again, similar situation to Ronaldo. He's done his kind of, now he's doing his money work. He's done his pedigree and his prestigious work. Now moving to his money work. Brozovic, elite footballer. Jota from Celtic, elite footballer. Like a really good footballer. Really good. Edouard Mendy was one of the best goalkeepers in Europe a couple of seasons ago. Karim Benzema won a Ballon d'Or. N'Golo Kante was one of the best players in the Champions League 2 seasons ago. Ruben Neves, elite footballer. Kalidou Koulibaly has been an elite footballer, probably barring this year and maybe the back end of last year. Has been an elite footballer for about 5, 7, 6 years. Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously, and Anderson Talisca. We all know how good he is, right? Obviously, but he was already playing in China, so there you go. China? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was China. Yeah, it was. Once again, it's depending on who you ask. Depending on who you ask, Saudi Arabia are either killing football as we know it, or are just doing what the Premier League has been doing for the last couple of years. I think what separates them both, in my opinion, is 2 things. Firstly, the fact that Saudi Arabia are buying football clubs and have the potential to manipulate the market based on the fact that they're buying football clubs, and then are also basically running a separate league, a competitors league. As well as that, I think there's a conflict of interest there that could create a lot of issues. And it's not just Saudi Arabia, because Chelsea are doing it right now with Strasbourg as well, right? So there's other instances of this happening, but I think the main issue around it is the fact that the amounts of money is ridiculous. So that doesn't help it. So there's that, and there's also the moral thing, right? There's also the moral thing, the morality around it. obviously when was it Al Etihad? What was it? Al Ettifaq. Al Ettifaq, that's the club. They signed Jordan Henderson when they obviously did his announcement video. They grey scaled out the rainbow armbands in the video. That in itself provides a very, I wouldn't say complex, but it provides a very heavy moral dilemma for a lot of footballers, and especially a lot of people who are quite ambivalent towards what's happening with Saudi Arabia in football right now, because it's not like the Premier League, who granted have morality issues of their own, but aren't A, as blatant, and B, as public and as strongly opposed to very much human rights, right? So there's obviously that. It puts into question a lot of the integrity around football in terms of footballers and their morality. Of course, Jordan Henderson was one of the biggest advocates for LGBTQ plus rights, and he's gone to Saudi Arabia, and that's happened, and he's the face of that issue right now, which is another moral dilemma in itself. What you need to kind of understand in this, what you need to understand, like I'm your dad. Like I'm your dad and telling you what to think and what to say and what to believe. From my perspective anyway, and what I'm tending to believe now is how much, where are we at now? Like, where are we at? I know I said I wanted to keep this podcast short. Where are we at with this? Is it a thing of what happened with the Chinese Super League not long ago, and they're just going to buy a bunch of players, it's going to fold within 3 or 4 years, and everything's going to be fine? I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think I genuinely see what's happening right now as a genuine change in football. Like a genuine change in the footballing landscape, because the amount of money, and not only that, the amount of unregulated money that Saudi Arabia as a state and as a footballing entity at this stage have is obscene. Like, it is numbers that we cannot even comprehend. The amount of money that they've got, and the fact that, what are FFP going to do? Saudi Arabia can buy UEFA if they wanted to, I'm sure. That is how much money they've got. They don't care. And because you want to scream sports washing, fine, fair enough. Sports washing has been happening for decades and for centuries. But yeah, it's a form of sports washing 100%. But at what stage do we get to this whole... do we need to stop it? Because is this not what the Premier League has been doing for the last 20 years? I guess you could say it's a bit different because they're under far more regulated kind of financial powers, and the popularity of the Premier League plays a part into how much money that's being brought into it, because it's the most popular league in the world. I don't know how many people watched the Saudi Arabian League last year. Nowhere near as many people as watched the Premier League. And obviously the broadcast rights have a big part to play in this as well, and obviously the amount of money is far more. You can compete far more with the amount of money that's being spent in the Premier League in comparison to the money that's being spent in Saudi Arabia, especially when it comes to wages. But it goes to show, football is this ever-evolving landscape that will never stop changing, and it's constantly changing, constantly going through cycles where you don't know what's next, and you don't know how it's going to change, and you don't know how it's going to differ. Like, football 5 years ago compared to now is completely different. So unbelievably different. And in 5 years from now, I'm sure it's going to be different. And in 5 years from then, I'm sure it's going to be different. But whether or not it's a good thing, who knows? Whether or not it's a bad thing, who knows? I guess only time will tell. What is concrete fact is that the fact that the moral compass of Saudi Arabia as a state when it comes to human rights is a big issue, a big elephant in the room. Because if this was the US doing it, if this was Germany doing it, if this was the UK doing it, which they've already done, but if this was France doing it, if this was Australia doing it, there would be far less moral contempt. But because of their moral compass, and because of the way that this whole thing is being marketed, and the fact that we all know the issues that are present in Saudi Arabia, there is a lot of moral contempt, which creates a big elephant in the room when it comes to how urgent are we to stop this? It's one of those things where you don't really know until you know, and there's been court cases flying left, right, and centre. City are currently going through a court case. I'm sure what Saudi Arabia doing there's going to be multiple court cases about this FFP and financially doping and sports washing and etc etc etc. I guess we just have to wait and see. Before we finish things up, I want to speak on a certain Kylian Mbappe briefly, because if Saudi Arabia had gotten Kylian Mbappe for a year, that would have been the biggest footballing story ever. The arguably pound for pound best footballer in the world, most valuable footballer in the world, going to Saudi Arabia for $1 billion for 1 year, it would have been the biggest sporting story in a long time. Probably the biggest pure sporting story, arguably ever. Personally, I would not have begrudged him if he went. It is $1 billion for 1 year, and then you get to do what you wanted to do anyway and move to Real Madrid. I'm shocked that he didn't take it, to be honest. I am shocked that he didn't take it, because to me it's a no-brainer. And it's that much money that it shouldn't be questioned. It is ridiculous how much money he was going to earn purely based off contract. Forget bonuses and sponsorships and all this stuff. Based purely on contract, he would have been stupidly rich. So you wouldn't have begrudged him, in my opinion. I wouldn't have begrudged him for going. It's interesting that he hasn't, and I feel like it's important that he hasn't, because that would have been the ultimate changing of the guard, and that would have upset a lot of people who are angry about what's going on right now when it comes to the whole Saudi Arabia stuff. But it's a very interesting scenario that's developing with that. He's obviously rejected the deal. I don't think it's going to be resent. I don't think anything else is going to come of it. But yeah,